Empty the chamber on it. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. It is Wednesday night. This will be posted Thursday morning. It is getting close, ladies and gentlemen. We got a little preview of what was going on in practice today. Some crazy rumors are going around the internet about Georgia putting cameras in the Benz Dome. Talk about that. Just a ton. And man, it's almost here. You got 2 more sleeps. Get through Thursday. The bank chat will be going all day on Thursday. Friday, we'll have coverage wall to wall. And then Saturday, it is go time. It is the best day of the year for college football. 3 premier games, 2 playoff games. It is going to be crazy. So appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. As always, we are thankful and grateful for you guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you guys. Comment, who would you start at running back? Because that's going to be one of the major questions. Mine was absent from practice today. Dallin Hayden taking turns with the ones. Chip's going to get his touches. He was at the press conference. A lot of questions. I don't think that any of them particularly make a difference. I don't think that we have, with Trey being out, I don't think we have a true factor back. So I think all those guys are going to play a lot. But I'd love to hear your comments. Who would you start at running back? How would you split the carries? Love your input on that. That being said, bring in my good friend, Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good as Kirby Smart is when he's watching that secret camera film from the practice facility today. That was pretty sly by Kirby, and that's pretty good detective work by Ohio State to sniff that out.
So that got posted on one of the sites. Jeff Snook wrote something about it. I mean, could it happen? Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a giant stadium. I lived in that situation when we played LSU before the national championship in 2007. We practiced at Tulane, and Tulane's field is surrounded by like apartment buildings and residential. I mean, so it's like if someone wanted to do it, they could easily do it. It was there's logistically there's just some. I don't know, like consternation where there's just a bunch of open windows surrounding your building, and they're from high floors where, if you wanted to roll tape and copy and, get practice, you could. I don't know what kind of advantage that would give you. I don't think it's much of an advantage, but I could be crazy. The Benz Dome obviously is perfect if you'd want to do that because there's so many suites and canopies and nooks. And when you're at Georgia, the thing about like when you play in Louisiana against LSU or you play Georgia, everybody in that state wants Georgia to win. Like nobody's rooting for you. It's not like you're playing in the Rose Bowl and it's like Utah versus Ohio State and people don't really care. But when you're playing in Georgia, it's just like, everybody hates you. Everybody's against you. You know that most of the people that own those suites are Georgia alumni or they do better when Georgia wins. I think even deep down with the Peach Bowl, if Georgia wins, that's good for the state of Georgia. And, the Peach Bowl is the state of Georgia, and Georgia football is important to the state of Georgia. So, again, is this tinfoil hat stuff? Probably. But is it crazy? No. But your thoughts on all the wacky stuff I just said, Nevada?
Well, I mean, the problem, this is what the problem is with the internet in 2022 is somebody can post something ridiculous like that, and somebody else can repeat it, and it just kind of goes round and round. And I just think stuff like that is just, it's such hooey, but it makes for good internet fodder, and people like to talk about that. I mean, I'm pretty sure you could give Kirby Smart like a Subway sandwich and a 6-pack of Red Bull, and you could watch practice. And I'm not sure how much he would get out of watching that. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, you don't know what they're going to call or when they're going to call it or how they're going to call it or why they're going to call it or what they're going to do. And so I'm not really sure what advantage you would get out of doing that unless it was maybe, if a team was completely scripting plays and doing the old Bill Belichick, I'm going to watch the first 15 plays of the greatest show on turf type of thing. But, I like I said, I think it's a bunch of nothing, but who the heck knows?
Yeah, I think that, there's not much to glean. Once you've watched 12, however many films they exchanged the last 2 years of film or whatever. Once you've watched all that, like, I mean, you're not, watching practice. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you could really glean from it. I mean, I would get if you try to get the signals or whatever, but a lot of times they just call the stuff. They call the plays to the quarterback. Sometimes they'll signal it in, but again, it is what it is at this point. It doesn't really matter. Nevada Mayan was out today. They said sickness, injury. I don't know. Like, how are you feeling heading towards the game? What have you heard? Between Mayan and Chip and Dip, who do you start? How do you think the reps are going to split out? Does it matter if Mayan isn't 100% going into the game?
Well, what I've heard is the injury. That he had a great day of practice the day before. Oh God, gotta love that gurgling sound there from Kirk hydrating right now, man. I'm telling you what, this is
It's my
the best
favorite.
for you guys out there in internet land. You guys we need a vote, some sort of a vote, like thumbs up or thumbs down on the Kirk drinking during the telecast here. But I
Yeah, right in the
digress.
chat.
Oh my gosh, please make him stop. Mayan, no, I think Mayan, I think Mayan's got the flu, and I think that's why he wasn't at the press availabilities. And I think this was sickness related. I think the injury, as far as I know, is he had his best day of practice the day before. So I think it's going to come down to a game time decision. How sharp does he feel? How's he doing? But as we talked about yesterday, I'm really kind of indifferent. I just want whoever's on 100%, whether it's Dallin or Chip or whomever, just give me the 100% back, because I think that they're pretty much interchangeable. I think once you take Trey Henderson out of the mix, none of these guys are really game breakers, and they're all serviceable and all good enough to get it done. So I'm not that concerned about it. Hopefully Mayan's better, gives us a third option. But heck, I'd even put Xavier Johnson back there and live with that as well. So I think we've got lots of options and a lot of them good ones.
Thank you, Big Bucks fan. Appreciate it. He wrote, "Drink up." Appreciate you, bro. It's 1-0 for the good guys. No, I agree. I think when all the backs are kind of equal and you don't really have without Trey, you don't have that factor back. In 07, if we didn't have Beanie Wells, there's a dramatic drop off from Beanie to Boom Heron. God bless. I love Boom and Brandon Sane and those guys, but they weren't Beanie. And I just think that you when all the guys are basically kind of the same, they're good plus backs, but they're not elite. They're not Ezekiel Elliott first round type backs. That I think that it's not going to make a big difference. And plus, the way we throw the ball, and we don't throw to our backs ever, and they might get maybe 20 carries in the game. If we have 70 plays, we'll probably call 50 passes. Because we call our bubble, our trademark bubble screens that never work. We love calling those. We love calling. Throwing to the tight end. So, the running backs, I think in the last 30 years, I don't think we've ever had, a more minimal amount of production from our running backs, but I could be nuts. And Georgia is fantastic at stopping the run. So I think this is going to be an aerial show for us to beat those guys. We're going to have to throw it over their heads. And I think we can. That's the thing that's going to be intriguing is, what we stink at is running the ball. And what they're good at is stopping the run. So what they're not good at is stopping the pass, and we can throw it on anybody. So that's where I think the game is trending towards going to. Now, that being said, I would still try to run on these guys because I just, I've seen this song and dance before when we played LSU and we played Florida, and you can't run on those guys and SEC speed and all that. And we ran all over those guys. If anything, we went away from the run too early in both those games, and it ended up killing us. Especially against LSU. Nevada, Matt Jones, you had a nugget. I got to spend like 2 weeks. Matt Jones has been running with the ones. That was confirmed today by the horde that got to go watch practice for 15 minutes, watch the most worthless part of practice, the beginning of practice, where the whole staff knows you're out there. You're going to get to watch a couple individual drills and like field goal protection, which is, again, worthless. But Matt's running with the ones. Your thoughts on that and what kind of impact that's going to have in the game versus Jalen Carter?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to have a big impact, and I think that's obviously a nice piece to have. Even though I think we've got some flexibility on there on the offensive line, and back to your earlier point about running the ball. My biggest concern in this game is that we just become Chuck and Charlie and forget the run, because I don't disagree with you, even though I'm disagreeing with the All-American offensive tackle. I don't think we suck at running the ball. I think we're totally fine at running the ball. I think that we just have to be less predictable about running the ball, and I think we can run the ball very effectively. So I think you've got to take it when they give it to you. You've got to be clever about how you attack them. You've got to attack the edges, and I think you've got to use their natural aggression on defense against them. But I don't want to see us just go back and throw the ball. I've seen what happens when we go back and throw it 60 times a day or 50 times and just completely abandon the pass and become Chuck it Charlie. I think that's a recipe for disaster. I think we've got to stay balanced, keep them off their on their toes, and really use the whole field and attack in a lot of different ways, because I like our backs. I think we can win with Dallin Hayden. We can win with Chip, and I think we can run on them. I think we can run on them, and would I run into them and just attack them relentlessly over and over? No, but I certainly wouldn't. The last thing you want to do is give Ryan Day an excuse to throw it 60 times, because he will, and I think that would be a huge mistake, and I hope we don't go that direction.
Yeah, I think in terms of a talent perspective, if we get our guys rolling, because I think we're the most talented offensive line that they've seen all year. Again, Paris Johnson's going to be a top 10 pick. Matt Jones has been playing well as a fifth-year guy. Luke Whippler's likely out, probably be a mid-round pick. DeJuan will probably be a mid-round pick. Donnie is, he was first team All Big Ten as a true sophomore. That's a talented group, and again, Georgia, they didn't see Bama. I don't know what O-line would have been comparable from a talent perspective, just in terms of having two, you have a premium pick tackle with PJ, and then you've got DeJuan. I mean, we've got talent is based off of NFL evaluations, not off of me being an Ohio State O-line guy and, those guys being, my dudes. It's more because, these guys are going to get picked high. They're talented dudes. They got a lot on the line. That's something that I think people don't like to talk about as much, but when these guys this is their last audition before the NFL draft, potentially, if we don't get the job done, I mean, these guys are going to put good film out there. So they're going to be ready to go against Jalen Carter, ready to go against these DNs. And this is the film that every GM and scout is going to watch first when they're evaluating Ohio State's players. So I think that, these guys are going to be motivated to play well. And I think there's a lot of guys that, CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is going to have the game of his life. CJ Stroud's going to run for 40 yards. I think he's going to run for 4 or 5 first downs for us to win. And he may or may not do that. It depends on if he really wants to win the game. Because I think that I think Georgia's very beatable. I really do. And I might be completely insane, and we might lose 77-0, and I might be an idiot. But I watched them on film. I don't, do they have fantastic players? Absolutely. Number one in the country, undefeated, reigning, defending champions, all that. But they don't have a George Pickens, who was, the second round pick receiver star for the Steelers. They don't have James Cook, who is starting to really come on for the Bills, and probably be a big factor in the playoffs for the Bills. I don't see that. Obviously their offense runs through their tight ends, which is, it's different in modern college football. Defensively, I don't think they're anywhere near as good as they were last year. They're still fantastic, still by far the best defense we've seen all year, but it's not even close to what it was last year. Last year was maybe the best defense in college football history. This year is the best defense in college football, but it's not at the level of last year's. And they only have 23 sacks on the year in terms of players dressing in the game. Nolan Smith is out. He had 3 sacks. So, you have 23 sacks dressing for the game, which is it's crazy, because you got to figure Georgia probably plays with the lead as much as any team in the country because they're so dominant. So you'd assume that they'd be getting after the quarterback because teams would be coming from behind and throwing the ball, but they're not getting to the quarterback for whatever reason. And they're not playing Bam every week either. So they're playing bad teams in the SEC, bad teams out of conference, and they're not getting home at the rate that they did last year. Last year, much more production from a sack standpoint. So I think they're beatable. And again, I could eat my words. We could lose 77-0, and people can come back and call me an idiot, and I'm fine with that. Nevada, where are you at? We're 3 days out now. How are you feeling? I'm sure nothing from the short media deal changed your mind, but how are you feeling 3 days out from the game?
No, they're feeling good. What's been interesting is just trying to get a feel for these bowl games in terms of how the bowl games are going, how the conference matchups are going, how they're looking. The SEC certainly looks beatable during bowl season. one thing that was just striking to me about watching these bowl games, and I don't know who else out there is watching as many bowl games as I am, but I'm watching them all, is, man, everybody runs the quarterback. Everybody. And it's like we are such an outlier in terms of how much we don't run the quarterback. It's like every time anybody else has third and short, fourth and short, near the goal line, they're going to the quarterback run every single time. That's all they do. And that's really I was kind of expounding on your point earlier about CJ running. I hope we run. I hope we run. I hope we play aggressively. I'm watching Kiffin. You know, he's a little overmatched here against Texas Tech, but man, he went for it on 4th and 1 from his own 11-yard line. And I mean, it's like he's using all 4 downs. He's going for it. He's letting us all hang out. And man, I respect that. Like, if you're going to lose, lose that way. Don't lose, running into whomever and punting the ball from the 45-yard line or doing whatever. Let's just go out on our shields. Let's let it all hang out against Georgia. Let's play. Georgia is not a great team. Georgia's a very, very good team, a very, very beatable team. We just need to play a clean game, play a smart game, play our game, and we'll come out with a victory. So I'm feeling good. Can't wait for the game to get going.
Yeah, I think it's a massive chance for retribution for the team. Again, what's up, David? Dave Penterick is on the live. He's asking questions. I think you just have to, you have to survive the initial storm, because Georgia's going to throw. You watch the beginning of the big games that they play in. Their first series, man, they throw bear defense, odd defense. They shift, the 2-down defense, like literally like every crazy thing you can run it. They run that like the first couple drives. They did it against Bam last year in the championship. They're going to throw crazy stuff at us to start, get us confused, get us flustered, get us off our game. Excuse me. And you just have to survive that. And I think that that's going to be the key, is just weathering the storm. I think leadership is key. I think Justin Fry is going to be key, just because he's going to be down on the sideline diagnosing the crazy looks we're going to see. I know they have a good plan for Bear. I'd expect to see some Bear defense on early downs, in case we do try to run it, get some matchups, get some pass rush matchups. And again, it depends on how bold they feel like being versus our 2 receivers, because versus Emeka and Marv, I don't think you could run much cover 0. I think you should get eaten alive by our guys, but maybe they throw that fastball at us and see if we can hit it. I mean, it'll be real interesting, but I don't know. Like, I have like a strange confidence right now where I just feel good about the team, where they're at. I think that these guys getting embarrassed and humiliated at home, Michigan, then just getting beat down for a month straight of living in Ohio and surrounding states, and everybody asking what happened in the game. It just can't help but make these guys really angry. And I hope they play like an angry team. I hope that they play like a team that, has been counted out, has been kind of crapped on by Buckeye Nation, because, it's not acceptable to lose to Michigan, but there's some people that take it to like a different extreme degree where it is really nasty how they are to these kids. And these kids got a chance to kind of, shove it, for those guys. And I think that's always kind of exciting, because, after a loss, one of the cool things you get to is you get to close ranks. You get to get rid of kind of the phony fake fans and really see who's really with you, who's riding with you. And I think it's going to be, these guys have an opportunity to win national titles still. And people, we've got this fog of depression with some of our fans. They're like, oh, well, they're like Eeyore. Oh, we're going to lose to Georgia. Oh, I don't want to be embarrassed. Oh, I don't want to hear the SEC chant. Oh, and I'm like, guys, like, Georgia's not that good. I mean, they're really good. They're a worthy number 1 overall team, but Vegas has us as the number 2 seed in the whole tournament. So, I mean, and we're a 6-point dog, which, again, if you're playing in a championship level football game, like in the playoffs, and it's in Georgia, that's probably worth, I don't know, at least 3. And Georgia's a returning champion, and their quarterback won the thing last year, and Kirby Smart's got a ring, so he's got experience. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, I could see 6 points, but if our guys show up and actually play ball and they don't play scared, and our quarterback doesn't play like a puss, then we have a great chance of winning. But, he's got to decide that he wants to be the man and not just be this flaccid being that he tends to be. Like, I mean, he's got to go out and be the man versus Georgia, and we'll see if he can do it. Because again, like, he's been the man versus Indiana and Maryland, and Arkansas State, but you got to do it against like a good team, and Utah wasn't a good team. Like, you got to do it against a good team to mean anything at Ohio State, and his legacy is on the line, and he has a chance to win a national title. So, and what they do in the matchup of their pass defense versus our pass offense, he should be salivating to get out there on Saturday night. Nevada, what is your gut right now? Like, how do you see this game playing? All the intel you're getting, again, like there's like source of Palooza down there right now. How are you feeling right now?
I think it's a high scoring game. I think it's going to be, I don't think we're going to get a ton of stops. I don't think they're going to get a ton of stops. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I see this game being played in the high 30s and the 40s, and it's going to be one of those things that, can you get ahead and get, one more negative play than they get, one more holding call, one more turnover, one more tip pass, one more big play on special teams. That's how I see this game playing out. I see it being like a 42-38 type of game. And, I think it's a coin flip. So, from an Ohio State, from a gambling perspective, do I like having Ohio State plus the points? Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. And that's why Ohio State's maintained that 6.5 point line despite so much public action on Georgia. So, no, I see it being a high scoring affair. And I think it's going to be an entertaining, it's going to be an entertaining game for the fans, and it's going to be a nail biter that's going to come down to the end. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope Ohio State blows them out and it's completely boring, because nothing would please me more than to have a repeat of 2020 Clemson on our hands.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're just going to take their shots and go get after them, throw it over their heads, scare them. Again, just don't play scared. I mean, you have no pressure. You're the 4 seed. Everyone's going to project Georgia to win. So it just, if there's ever a game it's fun to play in, it's this one, because you're the dog. You're in Georgia. Everybody there hates you. Everybody there wants you to lose. So, I mean, what better opportunity do you have than to go win this game down there, silence the SEC juggernaut? I feel better and better the more I think about it, the more I study the film. Because, again, I sit and watch film. I watch film for hours a day, seeing what's going on. I've watched the SEC title game. I watched the Oregon game. Watched both of last year's Alabama games. Even though it's a different coordinator, it's still Kirby's defense. Just kind of seeing what they like to do. And, it's just started, like, when you look at the talent on last year's defense versus this year's defense, it is just not even close. Because, again, they had Jordan Davis, they had their Trevon Walker, the guy that went number 1 to Jacksonville. I mean, those are some really good players that went pro. And when you have a 6'6", 375-pound guy playing nose guard, that changes everything. When a guy can run a 4.7, I mean, like, when you have a guy like that, it just, and I know, like, Jalen Carter is really good, but he's really good. He's probably gonna get drafted higher than Jordan Davis, but he's a quicker, more explosive guy, which is, I think, easy, which is gonna sound crazy. I think he's easier to block than a guy who's 6'7", 360 that runs a 4.7. Because you can't emulate a guy who's that big and that quick like Jordan Davis was. And Jordan Davis won every trophy known to man last year. He was unanimous All-American. I mean, he was a top 10-ish pick, but that guy was really good. Let's see. All right, David Greenshield, thank you. I gotta throw this up on the board. Thank you for the super chat. How do you see the run-pass balance in this game? God, I want to say something better than like 65-35, but I just, like I said, when Ryan Day panics, which he's panicked in the games that we've lost, he turns into Chuck and Charlie, man, and he just forgets about the running game and he throws it like he did against Oregon, did it against Michigan the last 2 years. I'm going to say 65-35. I could see it being 70-30. Just because, again, Ryan, he's the kind of guy that if it's not working early, he just abandons it and says, let's go get that perfect pass play called. But I don't know. I'm going to go 70-30 pass, because I just think that's how he's wired. I don't think he's interested in running the ball. I don't think he believes in the physicality that comes with running the ball. And I think that's one of his worst traits as a coach, is that he just doesn't like to run the ball. Nevada, what do you see from a run pass balance in this game versus Georgia?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be about 60-40. And, back to one of your earlier points about Jalen Carter. I mean, if you want to see the one way, the kryptonite for Jalen Carter, the one way to get that guy to be less effective, run tempo against him. The teams that have run tempo against them, when they run tempo against them, you know what Jalen Carter does? He stands at the line. He literally stands at the line. And so I don't know about you, but if I'm playing against him, that's what I want him doing. I want him standing at the line with his hands on his hips. That's what Ohio State has to do. Ryan Day was a little cagey earlier this week when he was asked about tempo. They're talking about it. I personally think they're going to run a lot of tempo. I hope, maybe that's just my hope, that they'll stick with it and run a lot of tempo instead of do the check with me so I can pretend I'm the quarterback and call the perfect play for the sideline routine. But yeah, you want to neutralize Jalen Carter, run tempo, go fast, get him gassed out, and maintain that 60-40 balance right there, and let's go get a victory.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's the way to. Anytime you're going against good D linemen and a deep defensive line rotation, the way to stop the rotation is just to run tempo, because they literally aren't allowed to rotate. Because if you don't sub and you keep your same personnel on, they can't sub. You're allowed to go as fast as you can, and that's what Nick Saban got angry about, because he runs that deep D line and plays 8 guys, 9 guys, and those guys were literally, they're physically trained to play like 3 plays, and then they jog off and someone else jogs in, and then they get the Gatorade and stand there for a second, and they jog back in. And but when you go tempo, they got to play like 4, 5, 6, 7 straight plays. And man, we did that up at Penn State in 2012 with Tom Herman. Second half, we stunk on offense, and we decided to run tempo, and they had a really, 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 excuse me, good defensive tackle, and he was just standing up by the 6th, 7th play, because they're just so gassed. They're not used to it. Again, like when you're a D lineman, and this isn't just a Georgia thing, an Ohio State thing. This is just how football's played. I mean, in the NFL, those guys, Aaron Donald doesn't play every single snap. Those guys rotate in and out. They get a blow. When you're a defensive lineman versus being an offensive lineman, defensive linemen have to pursue the football. So if there's a running play, the D linemen are expected to run to the ball every play. That's how good defense and pursuit is taught. The O lineman, once the play is gone, you're just kind of standing there and you kind of walk to the next spot and walk to the huddle, whatever. And it was funny because when I was coming up as a young buck and I played for the Chicago Bears, and even when I played at in my high school at Perry, I was always taught to run to the ball, even on offense, like run to the ball. And so that was how I was always geared, was to run to the ball. You never know if a ball's going to get punched out. You never know if your guy blows his hamstring or breaks his leg and the ball comes flying out. You could be the guy that gets in, and that never happened. But you see it happen at times where you'll see like the one lineman hustling downfield, dive on a ball that gets punched out on the ground and say, oh, his hustle saved the drive or saved the game or saved the season. So, and I just like to run to the ball because you can keep the people off your guy. If Beanie gets tackled or there's 3 guys on the ground and there's some crazy stuff going on in the pile, like you can peel those guys off of them and pick them up. So I always like to help my skill guys up, and they always liked that because you kept them clean. But when Tom Herman got to Ohio State, he told our guys not to run to the ball, which is the most counterintuitive thing I've ever heard in the history of football. Because when I was with Chicago Bears, like with Harry Heastand, it was like I had to run to the ball every play, and he would kill us if we didn't run to the ball. Now he didn't do that to the veterans, but when you're a rookie, you got to do whatever he tells you to do. So. But with Tom and the way we ran tempo, he's like, you guys stay, where the ball is, and that's it. You don't run to the ball. You're always getting ready, getting set, getting ready to go, so that we can call plays and run plays even faster. And I was like, okay. I mean, I guess, I still didn't really agree with that, because especially in practice, I was trying to keep those guys in shape, those big fat boys. And I'd say, like, go run 10 yards after the ball is gone, just so you can get a little bit more cardio instead of just sitting there like a big turd. And so I'd still make them run, even though Tom hated that, but it is what it is. Like I wanted those guys to stay in shape and get some conditioning in. Nevada, what percentage of the game would you, if you're Ryan Day, what percentage of the game would you run tempo?
I'd run it every play. I would go tempo and try to run a little. I mean, 80% of the plays, 90% of the plays. I wouldn't use it as a gimmick. I wouldn't use it as just a one series thing. I would just try to go fast and just completely. Georgia would never expect that, and Georgia that would keep them so off balance. That would keep them their big guys from being able to physically dominate, keep them from substituting. And if you could pull that off, that'd be something else. That's what I would do. 80-90% of the time, I'd be going fast.
See, like, my thing is, like, if I'm the coordinator or I'm the O-line coach or I'm playing offensive line, I want to do anything that the defense hates. Like, I want to cut those guys. I want to wham block Jalen Carter. I want to go tempo so that he looks tired and his film looks terrible. Anything those guys hate, I love. Like, because I love to agitate and harass and do that stuff to the defense. And I think that, you let them off the hook by going slow, but don't check with me, and then look back, and then look back again. It's just like, that gives them a chance to recuperate, where it's like when you go fast, man, I'm telling you, like, I've seen defenses die on the vine because they can't rotate. They're used to rotating. What are these guys doing? These guys can't do this. I mean, again, if Nick Saban is making a big stink about tempo and how it hurts players and it injures players, and then you're on the right track when Nick Saban's trying to get stuff patched out of the game, essentially. Like, oh, you guys can't run tempo because it's a danger to the game. I was like, no, it's not. You guys having linebackers that run a 4.2 and weigh 250 pounds is a danger to the game. Another super chat. Appreciate this, David. Safety play good until Michigan. We need it again. I honestly I can't remember the last time I saw our safeties play as bad as they did against Michigan. Nevada, I know we watch every game. We break it down. Have you ever seen a performance that bad by our safeties? I mean, because that was bad. And that's why I just have this conversation with Georgia. It's like, there's no way they can play that bad again, because they're good players. Like, Ronnie Hickman's a really good player, Lathan Ransom is like a fringe All-American type player, and they just played terrible in that game. And like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the moment. I don't know if anxiety. I don't know what it was, the plan, whatever it was. They ate a bad bowl of spaghetti before the game. I don't know. But I can't see our safeties being that bad again, especially when these guys are trying to go to the league. They're going to play against these two dominant tight ends where they're going to have a real chance to make a mark in the mind of NFL scouts. What's your take on the safety play, and can it possibly be that bad again against Georgia?
No, it was really, when you break it down to its simplest, and I know people like to kind of have these ones where they boil complex issues down to like little easily understandable blurbs, but it was guys just not doing their job, trying to do too much. And even, Ransom, who, there's no bigger fan of Lathan Ransom than me, but there was two plays, two of the five big plays were on him, where he didn't do his job, where he didn't do his responsibility, where he had an easy play, just do his responsibility. Instead, he tried to do something else, and it turned into a big play and turned into a touchdown. So, those are things that, that's what turned the game. Jim Knowles was asked today, did the game really turn on those five big plays? And his answer was yes. And I thought it was, eloquently simple and straightforward and get right to the point. So I think they've really stressed the importance of team defense, guys doing their jobs, playing their responsibilities, sticking to their job. I think they're going to come out against Georgia and do a much, much better job of doing that. And if they do that, you're eliminating those big plays. That stuff's not happening. And you've got really good, really smart football players that were just trying to do a little bit too much. Maybe the moment was a little too big for them. Maybe a little bit too much emphasis on winning that game, and maybe playing as an underdog with less pressure, being able to play a little bit more relaxed will allow them to play within themselves and stay within the team concept. So I'm expecting a big effort. So hopefully we get those things cleaned up.
Yeah, like Lathan, I mean, one of the plays, I'm going to dig it up and show real quick is, we ran, we called a gap exchange where the safety comes off the edge, linebacker scrapes across. And again, this will be much easier when you actually see the film of it. And he is this close to getting the running back on the ground on the 175-yard run. But the problem is that he stopped for a fraction of a second to check the quarterback pull, which was not his responsibility, because they're running read option. He's checking the quarterback. Again, trying to do too much. His assignment is to take the running back. And I've played it. Like when I was a defensive end in high school, and team would run the veer option, and my job was to tackle the fullback on every single play, whether he has it or not. My job was to tackle the fullback. And so, when you try to get cute, and oh, the fullback doesn't have the ball, and you peel off and you go grab it. I don't know. It's just like those little mistakes, those little, trying to do too much things. Those turn into 75-yard touchdowns, because otherwise we're in pretty good shape. I mean, if he just goes gung ho, and again, I'm going to pull this up. He's got the running back in the backfield, and when you guys see this, you guys are probably going to be sick. But it was one of those things where I was like, holy cow, we were that close to having a 3-yard tackle for a loss instead of it being a 75-yard touchdown. And that's what when you play a team with equal talent, which we don't generally play teams with equal talent when you're at Ohio State. We play we play Michigan's got equal talent, then whoever's in our bowl game, maybe. I don't think Utah did, but Georgia absolutely does. It's just those little things. Those little things add up, and they can sting you in the worst way. We got super chat, David Penterick. This is great. CJ Hicks, really good to go. He was out there in Nevada. You had intel 2 weeks ago that he was running with the twos, and it was confirmed today. Still running with the twos. Your thoughts on CJ Hicks, Nevada?
I mean, he's healthy. I mean, he's not. We'd all feared the worst when he kind of went down against Michigan, but no, he's out there and moving around pretty good. Do I think he'll be a impact player in the game against Georgia? Maybe on special teams. Don't expect to see him, when it matters out there on the field, but maybe he'll make a big special teams play. And I fully expect him to be a huge contributor for next year, because he's the kind of player that you want. He's that linebacker that can run and cover and hit. And I think he'll be a big contributor next year. And maybe he'll make a big special teams play that flips the game on Saturday.
He was a guy that preseason I had much higher hopes for. What's your reaction, man? I mean, basically he hasn't played this year. I thought he would get a little bit more burn, given the fact he was a 5-star linebacker, a position of need. Obviously, going into the season, I don't know how many people projected Tommy Eichenberg to be the monster that he turned into, but what is your reaction to the production that we got out of CJ so far this year, and what do you see out of him next year? It sounds like Tommy could be coming back, which would be great. But I love your thoughts on that.
Well, it's just math. It's math. It's called 4-2-5. When you play two linebackers, and your two linebackers are Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers, there's just not a lot of room for somebody else. I mean, you notice the third linebacker in that, the captain, Roger Mitchell, is now transferring because there's just not enough playing time for him out there. So I think CJ just got caught in a numbers game. I don't think it's any reflection of his play, but when you're only playing two linebackers and you're not one of the top two, and you got guys like Cody Simon and Chip at the time and Pele. I mean, you've got a lot of guys out there that are trying to get out there on the field, and for CJ, I just think he got caught in a numbers game. He's got to wait his turn, and his turn's probably going to be next year.
What do you think his ceiling is?
Boy, I think I love him. I mean, I love him as a player. I think he's a guy that, I think he can be a Raekwon McMillan. I think he's a guy that he can be a big contributor. I loved watching him play in high school. Loved watching him play in the 7-on-7. He's one of those great 7-on-7 guys, because he's big enough to stop the run, but he can cover all those guys in 7-on-7 out there when it's just pitch and catch out there in the field as well. So it just speaks to his versatility, to his speed, and to his kind of his positioning as being one of those modern 2022 linebackers. So no, I think he's a future NFL guy. Guy's going to play on Sundays, and we're lucky to have him.
I agree. Matthew, who was harder to block between Vern Golson or Doug Worthington? And I love Doug Worthington. Doug Worthington is one of the nicest kids, one of my favorite teammates, one of the greatest dudes I've ever been around. But Vernon was harder to block. Vernon was 6 overall in the draft. Doug had his own challenge, though, because he was 6'7", and I mean, he looks like he has the arms of, he's like a pterodactyl. He's so wide. I mean, he's got no one that I played against at Ohio State had a reach like Doug. I mean, he's just gargantuan. When he was younger, he was thinner. And I don't mean that he's fat. I just mean that he was 275, and when he got into the NFL, he was playing at 330, D tackle-ish type body. Had a great NFL career, 7-8 years in the league. But Vernon was harder. It was interesting. He didn't have a ton of moves. He was kind of stiff, but he was really strong. And you saw what he did to Jake Long, and you saw what he did. He had 14 sacks, I think, our last year in 07. Big part of us having number one total defense was having Vernon and Cam Hayward as our two ends. Those guys were not, Vernon had 14 and a half sacks, but I didn't think he was a great pass rusher, but he was a really, really strong, talented dude. And he would just overwhelm tackles that weren't ready for the type of strength that he had. Again, and I loved Vernon because I knew with Vernon, it was I had to bring it every day in practice or I was going to get, if you're at Ohio State, you're going against a good player. It's like playing corner, and you got to go against Marvin every day. If you don't bring it, if your mind isn't right, you're going to get humiliated on the practice field. And again, that's part of the cool thing about going to Ohio State is look, you could take a day off, you could stay up late or not eat right or whatever. But man, you're going to get crucified in practice. So, I mean, I was always on point at practice because, the practices, again, I hate a cliche and I think it's stupid when people say that you want to make practice harder than the game. But when you're going against Vernon Golston, who's, unanimous All-American the year that we came out, I mean, the game, I mean, he was the deal. He was the best guy I went against all year. And it really helped me become a better player. And obviously, we see what Cam Hayward's probably going to be in the NFL Hall of Fame or close to it. I mean, he's still ultra productive, even given being, 30, 35-ish years old, 34-ish years old. He's still having Pro Bowl level success in the NFL. Captain of the Steelers. I mean, what more needs to be said? I mean, he's a guy they might even put his number up in the rafters there because he's been so good, so productive. He's such a great person. Walter Payton Man of the Year type guy, great family. Cam is a guy that I was really close with. When he was a freshman, I was a senior. I used to give him a ride home from practice every day because he didn't have a car. I had my Honda Accord, my little dinky Accord, and Cam Hayward and myself, two big dudes rolling in the Accord back to the dorms. And I just love the kid to death. One of my favorite players I've ever been around. And that's the funny thing is you guys want to kill each other every day in practice, and then all of a sudden after practice, give them right home and your boys. But again, that's kind of that edginess that you need. And then when you're done, when it's over for the day, it's done. But God, what a career he's had. Nevada, real quick, I'm going to
no.
Go ahead.
Hold on here. We got a super chat here that says, "What was Vernon Golston pharmaceutically enhanced, and if so, what was his regimen?" So, what's the answer to that, Mr. Barton?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean,
Vernon,
Vernon,
just chicken breast and good eating Jamba Juice, maybe, or something.
No,
like that?
I just think some guys just have genetics. I think genetically, now could guys be taking juice? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, Vernon didn't strike me as the guy that was on juice, but I mean, anything's possible. Again, he's, he worked hard, but I mean, he wasn't some guy that was the gym rat. People thought I was on juice, and I was like, I mean, I took creatine, but I don't know where to buy that stuff. I don't want to buy that stuff. I don't, again, when they say that it makes your testes small, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Screw that. I can just go work out a little bit harder and be just as ripped as the guys that are on juice, and now stronger than most of the guys that were on juice. Because again, to get strong, it's not really that hard. I mean, there's only a certain level of strength you need to play in the NFL. You don't, if you bench 600 pounds or 400 pounds, once you hit a certain level, it's all kind of the same. It's not like you're going to be that much better if you're a 600-pound bencher than a 400-pound bencher when you're playing offensive line. Now, if you're in a powerlifting contest, or if you're in Mr. Olympia, or if you're in the Russian Olympic team, that might be different. But I don't know. I mean, that's something that we talk about with the steroid thing, and people think everybody juices. I don't know. I know that some guys juiced, but I don't know who. I know one guy that got popped for it, but again, it's just, he was the guy that it was just obvious. But I don't know. I don't think it's as prevalent as people think. Now, I could be dead wrong, and everybody could have Victor Conte at the dorm room right now getting shot up to play, but I don't know. And again, now there's more money and there's NIL, so it's a lot easier to do it if these guys are going to do it, because they can actually buy the designer stuff that's expensive because they've got millions of dollars laying around. So instead of buying a second G-Wagon, they could do that. But I don't know. Well, like again, I used to always laugh when people would accuse me of that, because I would do something like the one day we were working out in the summer, and we did this thing, these green band benches, which the green bands are like those super thick bands. If you guys work out at the gyms, get the the real. And so we were doing band bench. So they strap these bands on, and when you put the two green, it's like 100 pounds of resistance. So I put like 315 on top of the green band, so that was like 405. But it gives you resistance on the way down. And I was repping it for sets of 5, and the next day I got a drug test notice, and I'm like, you guys are so stupid. So I end up like take my test, done. Never sweated it. Like, I mean, and I get, like, when I was in the NFL my rookie year, I got drug tested like 6 times, like constant drug tests. Cause I think it was because, at the combine, I had low body fat. I did really well on the bench, and they're like, this guy's got to be on gear. And I was like, I never even thought to take it, because again, I was already strong enough. Like my issue was never strength. It was always just, flexibility and not getting hurt. Cause I had significant injuries in college, significant injuries in the NFL. So, I don't know. Like for me, it didn't make sense, but for some guys, like LeBron and some of these guys that you're rumored to be on HGH, he's 38 years old, he's still playing high level ball after playing basketball in the NBA for 20 years. Like, nothing at this point in my life, nothing would surprise me. All right, let me.
Well, I love, no, but Kirk, I do love your idea though. That's a great marketing thing. Instead of donate money so we can get this guy another Bentley, the better designer drug regimen. That, I think that's got some appeal. I think you might have hit on something there.
Well, I mean, I had lunch with a guy, who was in a branch of the military, highly specialized forces. And I was like, how prevalent is that? And he's like, oh, we all do it. And I was like, I mean, because he described his regimen and how many miles they did, and lugging 100-pound knapsacks and 70-mile run, and I'm like, God, I'd do anything I could to recover from that, because I mean, that's they just do stuff that's so insane when you say it out loud that you can't believe humans can do it, but they do it. This is their natural training. Those guys, they put their body through the paces, and again, like, when it's an endurance sport, and you can recover faster, then that's the name of the game. And, they don't, again, like when you're a soldier and you got to go fight and you got to keep your body fresh so that you can stay alert and stuff, like, hey, I don't judge. I don't care. And if they made it completely legal, whatever, I don't care. Cause I like you said, I think that the really, really high level stuff is obviously 10 steps ahead of the testing. The testing is kind of like the Dr. Clouseau, like try to chase after these guys, and I don't know, like it just doesn't make sense to me. But hey, like I don't think Vernon juice, and I could be dead wrong. You could be like, Kirk, you're an idiot, no clue. I mean, he looked like Adonis. I mean, obviously people saw the pregame photos and all that, and how jacked he was, but like Santonio Holmes, like he was absolutely jacked, and he would eat like he'd eat like a double cheeseburger, fries, McFlurry, like, I mean, and he'd have like an 8-pack, and like some guys just genetically are just better than you are, and I am. So I don't know. I think it just kind of depends. But again, that's a fascinating subject, and this could go on for about 20 hours. And if you guys are bored and want to watch one of the greatest documentaries ever made, watch Icarus on Netflix, where it talks about the Russian doping scandal in the Olympics. And again, that's why I like, anything's possible with this stuff. But I don't know. Like for Vernon though, I would say no, just because he didn't strike me as that kind of guy. I mean, he was a guy that was one of probably the most quiet teammate I ever played with. So he wasn't like some roid rage freak out, because a lot of times, those guys take that stuff. They've got acne and they've got, all these mood balances, and I never saw that out of Vern. I mean, Vern was like a church mouse, basically. Great player, but quiet. Any other stuff, since we did not have a super chat on that?
No, just yeah. So Bobby Bonds or Barry Bonds. Now I'm getting off track. Let's go on. Let's go on with any other questions we have.
What about Barry Bonds?
You don't think he used either, do you?
Well, his head was like 10 times bigger, and he weighed like 350 pounds. I mean, it's just like, I mean, there's some guys it's just so obvious, but I mean, do you think? I mean, you think Tiger's on juice? You've always said that. You know,
Allegedly.
well, I mean, allegedly, but it's like some guys. It just when there's all the smell tests, it's kind of like Lance Armstrong. Past 8 million tests, but then it turns out he was juicing the whole time. Like Liver King, your boy, the Liver King, who's the big TikTok guy who's got like an 8-pack abs, and he claims he eats like bull testicles, and that's why he's big and strong. And it's like, I don't know. Like, I think if it smells too much like it, it's probably happening. But again, I could just be completely stupid and naive with Vernon, but I never thought it. I mean, again, the guys at Juice, you can always kind of see it. You can see how they act. They're kind of all over the place. Because like the mood swings is always a big dead giveaway to me. The ups and downs, the depression, all that. It's like, how many of these bodybuilders end up killing themselves because they're depressed, because they don't think they look good enough, or because they're, that stuff really messes with your mind. And I don't know. Vernon was always a pretty steady dude. Do you want to break this play down, or do you have any other like stupid things that we could talk about, like steroids and Barry Bonds?
Nope. Go to the play.
Ken Chiaminetti. All right.
Go to the play.
We've got Tony Mandarich.
Yep.
Oh, allegedly.
Go Pack, go.
Oh yeah, you're right. He was a Packer. All right, this is booting up. So this is the play. We're gonna run this just real quick. This is our, and again, this is doing your job, being a safety. So here's Lathan. His responsibility is to tackle the running back. We're doing a gap exchange here, and this is just like about the easiest play you could ever run. It's just a front side zone. And if you watch it, and I run it all the way through, just watch Lathan. He pauses right there. Watch him pause right there. And he looks back at the quarterback. This is not his job. He stops here, kind of dead legs, look like a Euro step. And if he just keeps running, that is a loss of 2. But he doesn't, and he stops, tries to do too much, and the result. So again, it's just the little stuff like that where, and then you watch, our G, Tehran right here, get crushed, get put up on one leg by the guard. And their guard's a good player, but this is almost ridiculous. Like that's something that happens in Pee Wee football when you get that kind of surface and jack a guy. And they end up blocking it, and Tommy doesn't fit the right gap. So, you have 3 guys don't do their job on a play. But the guy, I mean, Lathan's got this thing's dead to rights. If he just runs, he's tackling him in the backfield, at least getting a hold of an ankle, letting the guys rally to the ball. But, again, he's trying to do too much. Because again, who's the quarterback player? Ronnie Hickman. He's got him dead to rights. Great. This is a great call by Jim Knowles. This is a perfect defense. But when guys don't do their jobs, and I'll just let it run the whole way. But when guys don't do their jobs, this is the result. So Jim Knowles sitting up in there, he's like, he's looking at the formation, the handoff. He's like, oh, we got it covered. It's a wrap. It's done. And, when you don't do your job, and again, like I'm not trying to be Bill Belichick and repeat the same dumb phrase over and over again, but like that's how close it is in football. And, that's why, against Georgia, if these guys just do what they're supposed to do, believe in the plan, and trust. And again, the biggest thing is trusting that your teammate is going to do their job. Because right there, Lathan tried to do too much. I mean, he should have had a tackle for a loss. That should have been 2-yard gain. We're still in the game. And instead it goes for 75. Tehran doesn't hold his gap, gets launched into orbit. Tommy picks the wrong gap. Tommy didn't fit 2 of these runs, and it cost us 75 yards. Now, again, do we have to be ultra aggressive where if one guy's not in the gap, it's a 75-yard touchdown? I don't know. That's Jim Knowles' choice. But, I mean, that call he had was perfect. We just didn't execute it. So, Nevada, your thoughts on that? Again, like I said, the safety play was as disappointing as I've ever seen. It was just so bad. But
that's where you have dumb people going, oh, Jim Knowles was too aggressive on that play, and it's like the play call was perfect. The play call was perfect. All he's got to do is do his job. Hickman's got the quarterback coming out, and if he wants to come out the backside, Lathan drives right across and hits the running back. And the play's a 2-yard loss, and we go back and we line up for whatever the next play is. But instead, like you said, he dead legs it. He goes there, the guy squirts through 75 yards, and all of a sudden Knowles is an idiot. Knowles is a Big 12 defensive coordinator. Knowles can't get it done at Ohio State. And it's like, boy, I have a lot of empathy for guys when you dial it up perfectly, and then guys just inexplicably have a brain cramp and something goes wrong, and now all of a sudden your sister's getting death threats on DMs, on Twitter, and it's like, I mean, come on. So no, I don't think that's going to happen again. I think stuff like that was a byproduct of just a crazy game and crazy second half really against Michigan. And I don't think it's going to happen again. And I think we're going to have a much better result as a result.
I mean, honestly, if I was Ryan Day, I would probably just stay on the field and scrimmage for halftime. I would just, all right, we're just going to go good on good and run 10 plays against each other, and then Georgia can come back out of the locker room. Because, we were in great shape. We went into that locker room, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if these guys listened to the wrong song, took a nap. But, we got outscored like 28-3 in the second half. And, I mean, we biffed that fit on that run. We biffed the fit, or we biffed the fake punt. And again, and I think that a guy that, who I love to death, who wants, redemption more than anybody in the world, is Tommy Eichenberg. Because Tommy, on 2 of these long runs, Tommy didn't get to his gap. And Tommy has played at just an outstanding level all year. Very angry guy, very prideful guy, cold-blooded killer type guy. And, we're gonna go back in the film room, break down. This was the second to last long run. The one you're watching before is the last one. So here we're running our jack defense, which I don't love. I get why you do it. So you got Sawyer here as the stand-up, as the jack. You got your 2 ends here. And again, this is just an inside give. This isn't a crazy, I mean, that's literally the first play you put in football. And obviously, when we've got guys, not making, Lathan's got to be the eraser there and make that tackle. But, this is just a dive. I mean, this is the first play you put in on the first day of practice. So, you got your all-world center. We stunt out of it, which again, this is just kind of bad luck. And you're running, I don't know if this is a cross dog. I don't think it is, because I think if it was a true cross dog, he'd be hitting it a lot harder than it does. But I mean, we've got, this gap is good. This gap is good. Tommy doesn't get to his gap, so, I mean, you've got the C, you've got the B, but the A gap is bad. So, and that's all it takes, and again, is this a hold? This might be a hold. Is that ever going to get called? Probably not. Jack is working, the backside A, he's working the B, he's working front side A. And, again, this is just football. One guy's not in his gap and it's gone. And then, this really made me angry, and I'm not going to go crazy on Denzel Burke, but, Denzel, like right here, he's in man, Lathan's got to make this angle, but right here, he sees this guy's running with the ball and he doesn't run to the ball, which again, that's either taught or allowed in football. So when you're not turning, and I mean, and again, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this right here, maybe this is as fast as Denzel can run, but I don't think it is. I mean that looks as fast. That's not as fast as I can run. But is that all out? Like again, like you look at Lathan, he's turning, trying to make the play, doesn't make the play because he has to make this play. He has to get him on the ground, poor angle. But by the time he realizes Lathan misses the tackle, Denzel's already been jogging for 10 steps. So it's a wrap. It's over. And that kid's really fast. So, I mean, you can't, but again, like that's just part of it. Denzel decides not to run to the ball. Lathan misses the tackle and 75 yards. And again, I think that's completely unacceptable. And again, I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to be, brotherhood or whatever, but it's like, if you're going to jog the ball against Michigan and we're going to give up, 8 million yards on 5 plays, then that's just part of it. So we'll play it all the way through and then we'll dip out of here. But yeah, it's just
I think you can cut it off before he scores. I don't want to see him score.
Yeah, but
there you go.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of them to pick from. So, but no,
Yeah.
but it's just like little stuff like that when you're trying to play championship level ball, man. And again, no one lost as many big games. I mean, we lost to Florida and LSU, and it's like, you look at especially the LSU game that was close. It was it was a 14-point game, which is not super close, but when you do stupid things like that and you personal fouls and you screw up a fake punt, like I mean, when you're playing a team with equal talent, it's like it's that close to a win or a loss, and those little things all add up. And again, you never know what play it's going to be. I mean, a lot of times you don't even know until you watch the next day in film and you see, I don't know what was screwed up. So, any reaction to that, Nevada? Again, that's why I say, like, I mean, could our guys play harder? Yeah. Could our guys play better? Yeah. I haven't seen a game where they've played that bad in a long time. And I'm like, man, these guys are due. Like Tommy Eichenberg, not getting to those two gaps. And I love Tommy. Tommy's one of my favorite players. One of the guys that I'm proudest of after, getting kind of panned all last year. And then he comes back and has an All-American type year this year. I just know that has to eat at him. I know he's got to be motivated. And I know that like guys like that are prideful, they're going to take that seriously. They're going to, be up late at night, trying to get redemption from that. And these guys have a chance for ultimate redemption. These guys could win a national championship, and that erases losing to Michigan. Like a national title trumps everything. Like if you lose to Michigan and win a national title, no one's going to care that we lost to Michigan because you get the big ring. So, but your reaction to that, Nevada, and we will wrap this thing up. We've been going for a solid hour, so we appreciate you guys that tuned in tonight. But any reaction, Nevada?
No, I think I just think this is it's a rare chance in life to get a do-over. I think a lot of things went wrong. A lot of little things went wrong. Things that you can clean up. Things that you can clean up in 30 days, where you go back to the fundamentals, go back to the emphasis on team ball, and fulfilling your gap responsibilities and not trying to do more than that. And I think you come out, you play fundamentally sound against Georgia, and we can play with anybody because the talent level's not different. The coaching level's not different. And I like the underdog role for Ohio State, and I like the lack of pressure on Ohio State. So all those things considered, I think it's a great spot for the Buckeyes, a great opportunity for us to see a great game, and I can't wait for Saturday.
I totally agree. David, if you can't get past 305 on your bench, weighted dips are OP. They're a great cheat code. Start doing weighted dips because that helps your lockout. That I started doing those, and that really cranked my bench up. I mean, up to 550. So it was that's a big help. Work your back, kind of do front and back, but pull ups help. That sounds crazy to help a bench, but it kind of body weight stuff, push ups. Just do some ancillary stuff, and it adds up instead of just bench. So that's my thought on the bench. So this is super chat of that. I got to answer that one. Appreciate you guys tuned in. Appreciate you, David. That was a great question. Yeah, I just look at it and, going into the big games, the 0-2 Miami game where people were nervous and scared were going to get killed, the 14 Alabama game, which I picked Ohio State to win, people were nervous and scared were going to get killed. This Georgia game, it feels like the Alabama game, but that Alabama team had Derrick Henry and TJ Yeldon and Amari Cooper, and on defense they had Landon Collins, and they had Deron Payne, and they had the one big D tackle, Jonathan Allen, who's a $100 million D tackle for the Redskins. I mean, they had some really good players on that defense, and like I don't know. I mean, I watched again, I keep going back to the parallels where I watched them play Auburn in 14, and they gave up like 600 yards of offense to Auburn. And I was like, and Auburn wasn't even that good. And so I'm like, I know Alabama scares everybody and everybody pees their pants when they see Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide, but I just look at numbers. I'm a big numbers guy. And I'm like, when Alabama was really good on defense, they would give up like 30 yards rushing in a game, and they gave up like 300 yards rushing that game to Auburn, or 280 or some crazy number. And that's kind of how I feel with Georgia. And people keep saying, well, they were garbage yards and whatever when LSU threw for 500 the last game, but LSU was terrible last year. They were decent this year, but they still had like 4 losses, and they had their backup quarterback, and they're just throwing it all over Georgia's defense. And if people say, oh, they're up and they didn't care, I'm like, dude, Georgia never stops coaching. Like those coaches, Will Muschamp and Kirby Smart, they coach until the last dog dies. They don't stop and say, "Oh, well, we're up by 5 touchdowns, so everybody just drink Gatorade and chill on the sideline." Those guys are going crazy. They're playing their starters deep into the game, and LSU was throwing the ball all over them. And again, we've got CJ. If CJ decides to be the guy, be a man, and go play ball and go be a leader and go be a legend, then we win. And if he doesn't, then we don't. I mean, it really is just going to come down to if CJ wants to go win the game, because he's that talented, but in big games, he hasn't been great. I don't count the Utah game as a big game because it's a bowl game nobody really cared about. Utah was good. Obviously, the matchup of Jackson Smith-Njigba versus a running back, we exploited it to death. So, again, like the Michigan games, Oregon, this one, like CJ's got a chance to change his legacy right now. And I think it's going to come down to him, Marvin, and Emeka, because I think we'll be able to pass block these guys. I think we have to help on Jalen Carter. If we don't help on Jalen Carter, they should just fire the entire offensive staff, because he's their best player on defense by far. And my biggest pet peeve in football is when you don't give a guy like Matt Jones or Donnie Jackson help on a guy who's that good, because they don't have two of them. They only got one of those guys. Their ends are okay. They're not great, but he is like incredible, like number 1 overall pick type good. So you have to stop that guy. You can't let that guy get off and get 2 sacks and pressures and tackle for loss. And he only has 3 sacks on the year, so it's not like he's coming into the game with 15 sacks and gaudy stats. But he has a lot of pressures. You watch him on film. I mean, he is twitched up dude, and you have to help. And Urban Meyer said use a back to help, which means chip. I don't think you can chip a D tackle as well as an end, obviously. But I think that there's mechanisms to control that guy that smart offensive teams can do, and you can wear those guys out when you can't block them. So we'll wrap this, Nevada. Any closing thoughts? We'll do this again tomorrow night, probably a little bit earlier. But any closing thoughts out of you, Nevada?
Just thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks for the great support for these videos and for our website, and just really appreciate everybody, and look forward to seeing everybody on BuckeyeScoop.com.
Again, these are fun to do. We love doing these live shows because you guys help drive the content. You guys have fantastic questions, so we appreciate you guys tuning into these. This has kind of been something that we've really found a lot of joy in doing. Again, we are on BuckeyeScoop.com all day, every day, and it's very interesting because there's never been a better time to be on a board, to be in a community than now. I mean, the transfer portal, coaching updates, player news, recruiting. It is just nonstop every day. We live on that board. We appreciate you guys that are on at BuckeyeScoop.com. It's been a blast. And again, you guys run the show there. You guys drive the community. It is a great community. So thank you guys. We appreciate you guys so much. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like, click subscribe, comment down below. Who needs to be the MVP of the game for Ohio State for us to beat the Georgia Bulldogs? I need a name. And also shout out where you guys are from. I love when you guys do that. It's always cool hearing you guys from basically all over the globe. We've had people in China, Japan, South Korea, all over the place that tune in. So we appreciate you guys. I hope you guys enjoy this. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. So as always, thank you, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. It is almost time to beat the Bulldogs. We're 2 days away. It's going to go fast. I'll see you on the message boards on Ask Insiders on BuckeyeScoop.com. Appreciate you guys. You guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.